from the News Channel 5 Network. This is Score on Business.
Hey, welcome to Score on Business. I'm Pete Hendricks, a serial entrepreneur and your host for today. Many prospective entrepreneurs aren't sure where to start. We'll start providing a tip on each show, and then also Score offers low-cost classes and no-charge counseling specifically to guide folks through thinking about and starting and then succeeding in business. The first step would be either attending our Start Your Business workshop or reaching out to Score for an initial appointment. And on scorenashville.org, there is a drop down for the calendar, and you can go there and see which classes are. There's a class every Saturday, and then there's some during the week also. Now, I'll tell you, buying a franchise will be a good choice for some folks, though you have to really do your homework up front, and a Score counselor could probably help you with that as well. Let's see, so information on all these events, as I mentioned just a moment ago, scorenashville.org. Click on the Workshops tab at the top of the page. Okay, so this week's tip. The happiest and best performing professionals are those that choose a vocation in an area that's really important to them and that takes advantage of their natural strengths. My business is evolving so that we focus on what we do really well and then partner with others for what they do really well, which brings the best from both my company and our partners in order to deliver the best customer experience possible. Okay, so our first guest today is Blaine Weiss. Blaine, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so Blaine Weiss is the founder and president of the Provincial Development Group, which he launched in 2004. They provide interim executive leadership to assist companies with growth. Additionally, they offer transition planning services. Blaine speaks about leadership and business development and founded and hosts the Nashville Leadership Luncheon at Bridgestone Arena twice a year. So, Blaine, if you would, tell us a little bit about what makes your business model and client work unique. And of course, we all know that having a specialization really makes a difference.
It does. So that's a question we get asked a lot. I think the first thing that comes to mind is we don't have a formula. So we don't have a step A, B, C, and there are certainly A, B, C steps that a lot of companies offer that work ubiquitously. But our work is very unique to each client because each client is in a different phase, they're in a different season, they have different needs. And so I think one of the real advantages to our model is our flexibility to be relevant in a given time for a client.
Yeah, nothing cookie cutter.
Precisely.
The folks who do this are senior enough that they can kind of meet folks where they are.
Exactly. Yeah. Which frankly poses a unique challenge for us because we're not as simple to describe to a new ear as some other business models because it's not as common of framework to deal with.
Yeah, I'm a big fan though of custom solutions.
We are too.
Okay, so as someone who is always working with different companies and industries, who has influenced the way you run your business and shape your client work?
Well, that's a great question. So one of the things I'm a very big proponent of is what I've termed virtual mentors. And by virtual mentors, I have probably 7 to 10 folks that I pay attention to. I read their materials. And you know, folks like Dave Ramsey, who's certainly a local figure here, who's growing his business from a card table in his living room to 500-600 folks here. So I've paid attention to him. Marcus Lemonis from the show The Prophet, he's been very influential in my work. But one of the local organizations and leadership teams that has had a tremendous impact is the Nashville Predators and what they've done off the ice.
Right. And you know, that I'll tell you, these professional sports team, there's a lot of management things people can learn from what's on the ice, and then you're talking about some things that are front office and back office. So what have you learned about your business from the relationship with the Predators, and how has that benefited Provincial Development Group and the work with clients?
Sure. Well, to set a little context, Pete, the way I got started in a relationship with the Nashville Predators is they are the title sponsors of the Nashville Leadership Luncheon along with the arena. So I've gotten to see them in a pretty unique perspective in the city in terms of how they function and get to know some of their leadership on a first-hand basis. So one of the things that's really stuck out to me is they are always investing in their guest experience. And by that I mean a lot of companies and a lot of organizations can get a little stale in working with their customers because they get into a groove, and a groove can lead to a rut, and so things begin to become very repetitive. The team has invested heavily in the Bridgestone Arena and in their guest experience to constantly raise the level of that to a new level of excellence. A couple examples of that is they have invested in all new seating in the arena in order for people to be more comfortable. Another example would be what they've done with the Lexus Lounge to be able to cater to a different segment of the market and really offer something very, very unique in terms of a sports setting to that marketplace.
Okay. And so tell us about some things that you've taken to your clients that you've learned there.
Sure. Well, one of the core
or some examples, or whatever.
Yeah, happy to. One of the things I really like about the culture that the front office has built is something around no excuses. So that's a mantra. If you go into the dressing room, which I've been fortunate to tour several times, you'll see a big sign painted on the wall that says no excuses. Now that certainly relates to what they do on the ice and the fact that they want to win every game and are going to work hard to do that, but it also really has carried over to the culture of the organization, and that's something that I find that that's a great standard to hold up for folks, to say this is your responsibility. Things don't go your way 100% of the time, but let's not base our company and our organization on excuses, because that's not a good way to do business.
Right. Yeah, accountability is important.
Very important.
And I think, in my experience, one thing that is important to have that kind of environment is to make it where people aren't punished for making human mistakes. I mean, sometimes things have to be addressed, but...
Yes. In fact, it's interesting that you bring that up. Humorously, Sean Henry, who's recently become the CEO and president of the team, he was president before, but he was just promoted. He was going to do the keynote at one of my luncheons, and you may have been there for this, but I had put together this agenda, and I'd ask him to speak about how to keep your team focused, and how to keep your eye on the ball as a leadership, and how do you shape the view of your team around those core parameters that you want them to talk on. And he comes up to me about 5 minutes before the luncheon starts and says, "Hey Blaine, I just read your program, and I know that you sent me this topic, but oh, by the way, I'm going to do something completely opposite of what you've asked me to speak on." He said, "We've built a culture where we want our team members to come to us with ideas that no one has ever thought of, and what if we did this, and what if we did that?" And I've given that a lot of thought, because there's two types of environment. There's a manufacturing environment where you want zero defects, right? And there's a process to get that, and you measure quality. But then there's an R&D department, and the R&D department is inventing new things, and they are creating new things, and they're creating a process where innovation is possible. Well, what happens is, philosophically, if the manufacturing department takes their mindset and starts applying it to R&D, well, you squelch creativity and you squelch the ability for new things to come to the market. If you take the R&D leadership and apply that to manufacturing, then you suffer from quality control. So one of the things that they've done really well, and that I help my clients develop, is what's your manufacturing space so you can go after zero defects here? You know, whether you're an accounting firm or you're making car parts or whatever your field of expertise is. And then what's R&D? Where are people allowed to be creative, bring new ideas to the marketplace, and create a better future? And how do you delineate the two? And that's been tremendously helpful, and that's something I've learned directly from the leadership of the team.
Oh yeah. Awesome. And maybe 45 seconds to a minute, tell us about customer focus. Like you gave the example of getting new seating that's comfortable. Tell us about a client you've worked with and how you help them apply that briefly.
Sure. Well, again, a lot of times when we do business planning, it's very natural for the leadership team to be focused on inward-facing goals and what's going on inside the organization. I just did a planning session in Memphis this Monday morning, and the thing that we started with is, let's get outside of ourselves and let's talk about what's going well for the client and how are you focusing on them and how are you staying relevant to their needs. Because if you don't start there and you just start internally, you miss the very reason that you're there to serve in the first place.
Yeah. Blaine, thank you so much for being here today. You're a great guest, and we'll have you back in a few months.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
Bye now. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.